Blake, what's the worst thing you've ever said on a live mic?
Well, Toby, it'd have to be...
Welcome to the ChurchGear podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who can't get a word in on this pod without being censored. And I'm here with my co-host, who is a walking Toby Walters.
Man, I've never heard so many obscenities come out of your mouth at once. And of course, our listeners are one. I hope we're going to bleep all that thing that you just said out.
It's heinous.
It's heinous.
Cancelable worthy.
Yes. Cancel Blake is going to be the new trending hashtag on social media. But
it's my last episode on the pod.
I know. I don't even know quite how to respond.
My last day on earth.
It's amazing how many of our listeners had said, hey, can I get a copy of the unedited version? Is that a thing? And so we've always talked about we need to start ChurchGear After Dark.
We could never publish that.
No. We could not. And, someday maybe there'll be a paywall. It'll probably be like, $2 a month because nobody wants to pay very much to listen to us behind the scenes. But some of the nonsense we get up to that gets cut, man, there's some funny moments. That's for sure.
You have to be in person to know what that one was.
Blake, have you ever had a pastor where you're like, oh, I kind of enjoy this pastor because you never know what they're going to say?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a true story. Lloyd is in his 70s. Sweetest old guy ever.
Yep.
My wife's like old man crush.
Yeah.
He's one of the two pastors at
I
Fellowship.
love Lloyd.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he starts saying on Easter, everyone's brought their family. Yeah, when I was like a teenager, my whole family wouldn't say hallelujah. We'd be, we'd do it the Asian way. We'd be like, hallelujah, hallelujah. And the whole room is ice.
Yep.
We're like, oh my gosh, Lloyd, you're making fun of Asians. And he sees the room's not with him anymore. And he goes, do y'all not know that I'm 50% Asian?
Yeah.
The collective breath that went out through the room, It was incredible.
Lloyd is half Japanese. He just doesn't look it. When he said that, because I remember that Sunday when I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. And man, just the uncomfortableness in the room, it was hilarious.
I loved it.
And I sat under some pastors before that they're kind of wild cards, and I love it. And I know some people are like, oh, we're a little offended. And so Miles McPherson, pastor of the Rock Church out in San Diego, big giant church. And I mean, Miles is a character. And anybody that goes to the Rock or knows, things will fly out of Miles' mouth. So I remember one Sunday, he's in church and he's talking about how growing up, if somebody said something really weird or inappropriate in their family, and there'd be this awkward silence. Somebody would fill it with awkward. And I kid you not, less than a minute later, he's trying to talk about this story and he's mentioning a stripper.
What?
And he's talking about ministry that's being done, but he goes into kind of this description of the stripper and it's just painfully awkward. And then there's just this pause. And then somebody in the crowd of 2,000 people shouts out, awkward. And the whole crowd just erupts. It was hilarious.
That is amazing.
And then there's some pastors out there that just, they will say what they feel is right, no matter the consequences, whether it's politics or whether they're even calling out other pastors from the pulpit. And those kind of things start to cringe with me a little bit. I don't like that stuff. I'm like, tell all the inappropriate jokes in the world you want, but let's stay out of the politics, Lance. Let's talk about Jesus. But it's just interesting. I really enjoy pastors with just a little bit of that flair. You don't quite know what's going to come out of their mouth.
I mean, it makes sense that a fellow wild card would really enjoy a wild card.
I don't know if your wife has ever described you this way. My wife describes being married to me like being on a roller coaster, that we're going up, click, 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 and she never knows when the drop is going to come, when something's going to fly out of my mouth, and she's like, oh my gosh, hold on, here we go again.
My wife describes being married to me like being married to a cross between Steve Jobs and Chris Hemsworth, all the brains and beauty you could ever want in a person.
Wow. I'm thinking more like a cross between Chris Farley and a turtle.
Well, speaking of all the brains and beauty you could ever want in a person, the campus producer at the broadcast campus of Lakepointe Church, Rockwall, Texas, the arm candy to the beautiful Tara, and most likely to be cast as a mob boss in the next Robert De Niro movie, Blaine Johnston. Blaine, how does it feel to have the most intro superlatives of anyone in a while?
That felt pretty good. I love that. I love it. Good morning, guys.
He straight up looks like he could be cast as one of the mafia crew. He's got kind of a bruiser look to him. And I've hung out with Blaine at his church, and it's true. Like, he keeps that production team running with an iron fist.
You got to keep the trains running on time.
That's right.
I've always joked my dad looks like a mid-level mob boss. Blaine could be the final boss at the end of the movie.
Yep. All right, Blaine.
I'll take that.
Yeah. You've been around the block a few times, maybe more than a few. We won't talk about your age on the pod. We'll just allude to it. But give us a snapshot of your background in production. How'd you get your start and what led to your role today?
Well, my start, and I might have to explain some of this to Blake if he gets a blank look on his face, but I got to start in elementary school in the AV club, where we had to go to the library, pick up the reel-to-reel projector or the film strip machine, get that all loaded, bring it to class, because classrooms back then didn't all have all the things they have now.
Now, Blake was
but I got my start there.
Blake was a product of the public school system. So even, decades later, I'm sure, Blake, you still had reel-to-reel projectors.
I don't even think we had electricity going to David Jury. Guys, real talk, I was in church my senior year, and my small group leader goes, yeah, my daughter is teaching at an underprivileged, under-resourced school in Smyrna. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's David Jury. It's in the ghetto. And I'm like, that's where I went to elementary school. So you're dead on, Toby.
Yep.
So go back to AV Club, Blaine. Your nice elementary school.
I love it. So we had that club. We had to go to the library and pick up all the gear. So that kind of set the tone for things I loved to do. But I put all that on pause while I went through school. And it actually wasn't until I was in my 30s when I had one of those shoulder tap conversations with the pastor of the church at the time. Shout out Pastor Steve there in Goodyear, Arizona. But he had one of those conversations where he saw me involved in production and tech. And at the time, they didn't have a tech director at the church. We didn't even know what that was at the time. This was 20 years ago. And so they pulled me into a conversation and asked if I'd like to be the tech director. And that kind of started it all. I took over production and IT and some of the facilities stuff and really just started doing that. I was there for 17 years. And then God called me to Texas, where I was able to get on here at Lakepointe as a campus producer, and has just been so amazing to be here and be used here at Lakepointe.
And how long have you been at Lakepointe now?
Since 2023, so about 2.5 years now.
Okay. And can you describe, you can give us your job description, but what does a campus producer do at Lakepointe?
Anything that's production related. So if there's a room that has a production booth or a soundboard or a QSYS system, we're responsible for helping the users in that room, troubleshooting, making sure the events that they pull off are met with the level of excellence that we want here at Lakepointe.
Okay. Now, you're at what I would say is one of the most influential churches in America. Blake, do you scroll Instagram a lot? You just, you slide the reels down.
Why do you think I have so much brain rot, Toby? Yes.
Exactly. You used to be like Steve Jobs, but now brain rot from Instagram has made you like a turtle. Yeah. So, Blaine, I see your church come up all the time. Pastor Josh or your worship, like you guys are doing really amazing things. And can you talk to us about like literally some of the technology that you've put into place, your camera systems, PA, just, we got gearheads that listen. What does Lakepointe use?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we, one of the newest things, and Toby, you and I watched this happen while we were walking around our space, but one of the coolest things we've just implemented is our moving LED wall. So we have an LED wall that's the width of our main stage, and it goes up and down at different points in our services just to draw attention or give opportunity for more lights behind the band. That's on a kinesis system, so we can activate that and move it. Our stage team is working behind the scenes, making sure nobody's in the way or underneath that wall. But that's really cool. It just helps us support our worship during the events. And then it comes down during our speaking times to give a backdrop for our speakers so that when that is broadcast to all of our campuses, they have a clean look behind them. QSYS, we've implemented QSYS in a lot of our spaces, and that has really simplified the process for our users. I know we've talked about QSYS on the pod before, but it's just a really, really powerful tool to get the availability of the rooms into the hands of the volunteers and able to run very simply. We also implemented, with the help of Skylark, shout out Skylark, with our SMPTE 2110 system, which is handling all of our audio, video, systems throughout our campus, and really has streamlined a lot of processes and makes it really quick to plug and play practically wherever on our campus we want to push video, audio, all kinds of different things. So those are a few of the things that help us do what we do on a weekend.
Yeah. How about audio consoles and PA, and what cameras are you guys using?
We're a Digico house, and we're using, I believe we're on Sony cameras. I don't do much of the camera work, but we're a Digico house. We're all of our campuses are on Digico, so we can train in any one of our venues and deploy people, volunteers, audio contractors, whatever, to a campus, and they'll run very similar. We're working on standardizing our campuses around that. We use Resolume, which is really cool, to transition videos very seamlessly across all of our campuses. We run those by campus, but it helps with overlaying text over video for backgrounds. We can transition videos very seamlessly using Resolume Arena to help support using our LED wall and the like, and projectors and things.
Cool. Blake, how much of that did you understand?
Toby, I was thinking about the cocktail juice I'm going to use this weekend because my brain couldn't plug into any of those, inputs.
You were already mixing drinks in your head
Correct.
For the weekend. Yeah.
And we should say, for those that are following along, this is number 4 in our batch.
Yeah, but it's the first of the day.
Yeah, but, I did 3 yesterday. I left it all in the field.
That's true.
They don't play NFL games back to back for a reason.
So, Blaine, I got the pleasure of visiting Lakepointe. You gave me a tour, and I saw this LED wall that moves up and down. And Blake, I assume you've seen videos on Instagram where people just love to blast churches for, overuse of technology or just ridiculous things. And so, Blaine, I'm worried that you're going to get lit up for this thing, but I thought it was super cool. So how big is this LED wall? Because I know it's pretty sizable.
Oh yeah, it's I don't know the exact measurements, and the gearheads are going to want to know panels and all that kind of stuff. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I would say it's probably 10 to 12 feet tall and about 30 or 40 feet wide. I don't know. Speak to that, Toby, if you saw it in movement too. But it pretty much covers the back of our stage, and it's a really cool tool to use that we help support our worship. It's not something you have to have, but we have the LED wall, and we had Kinesis system, some of the Kinesis system parts laying around, so we decided to implement it. And it's really added and helped support what we're doing during our worship and services.
Toby, it's impolite to ask a man the size of his LED wall.
Size doesn't matter, Blake. It's okay.
For their LED wall? Goodness gracious.
So I feel like a lot of our users are trying to imagine this. Oh, this is super cool because our LED screen, center stage. Yeah, we'd love it up high for worship. Gives us a lot more visuals, and then to be able to light the band, but then to have it on the ground behind our pastor, especially when you're live streaming the message out to other services, and just the idea that you could do both. I mean, how long does it take to go up and down? Is it super loud? Is it distracting when it's going up and down? How does that work?
It's whenever we're moving it, it's typically black. So there's no light on the wall, obviously, because you don't need to light an LED wall. But we always move it in black, and it takes anywhere between 10 and 15 seconds to go either up or down. Mm-hmm. So it's very fast, and we do it during transitional moments. So we do an announcement video. We call it LP News. We do an announcement video. We're typically moving that wall and moving stage pieces during that. And so that piece happens in the dark when the wall is in the dark, stage is in the dark, and then we'll move it between services usually, so that again it's in the dark. We're not moving it when people are actually looking at it or watching something on it. Although we could, but it's just not something we're choosing to do at the time.
And how high up do you move it typically for worship?
It's about 12 to 15 feet off the ground when we do that. And when we lower it, it ends up about a foot off the ground.
Okay. And how do you assure that nobody or their cat is under there when you're lowering it down so they don't die?
We don't care about cats. They would know enough to dodge. But during that movement time, we have an LED wall tech and a stage left team member and a stage right team member. And they're basically on each edge of the wall, and they're keeping eyes on people moving on stage and making sure we're doing traffic control so that as that wall is moving down, nobody's going to get bonked in the head or it moves slowly enough that hopefully somebody would realize that it's on top of them, but we keep that pathway clear.
Blake, do you think you like to say you have ninja skills? Do you think you would get out of the way fast enough, or would that thing just squish you?
Depends on how bad a day I had at work. If I'd spent the whole day with you, I think I might just line it up to crush my neck and,
Yeah. If you had 3 podcast episodes in one day with me. Yeah.
Maybe I'll head over there now.
So, Blaine, as some of our listeners are thinking, man, this sounds like an interesting idea. Could I get the LED wall to move up and down at my church? What logistically do they need to be thinking about? Like, is it, the structure of the roof? What does this Kinesis system include? Is it a huge deal, or is it not as big as people might think it is a deal?
It's a huge deal when you're thinking about the infrastructure because of the engineering of the building needs to be able to support the entire weight. I think ours weighs about 8,500 pounds, I think. And so the roof system, the structure you have needs to be able to support that weight consistently, because that's the last thing you want to have happen is that thing toppling at some point and creating catastrophe. So that's the biggest piece. As far as Kinesis goes, we brought in an integrator. B&L Sound helped us with that. And Skylark has helped us troubleshoot a few things on that. But we brought some experts in to help us with those moving pieces. As far as Kinesis goes, we've got a couple of rigging systems that help with that movement. It's basically chains and cables that move up and down along with the wall.
Yeah.
So, there's a cost involved, but because we'd already purchased some of those things for a different campus deployment, we didn't have to outlay much more capital to do that. And don't ask me about cost. I'm not in the loop on that.
You're just making sure it works. You don't pay for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I got my 2 kids and my daughter's boyfriend. I'll say because I'm a dad of a teenage daughter.
Line.
Yeah.
Toby's daughter has a boy. How old is your daughter at this
15.
point? All right. How long have they been together?
Like 3 or 4 months.
Ring by spring?
No. 15-year-old? No way.
Do you still like him?
He's a great kid.
If he's your son-in-law, will you be happy?
That's way too far in the future.
Will you be happy?
If you were my son-in-law, I would be deeply disappointed.
So you're saying this guy's worse than me?
So anyways, I got them a tour of the production systems at Church of the City after church a couple weeks ago. And I feel like the most fascinating thing to them were like all the rigging up in the ceiling above the stage and the motors that everything can lower down on. And then they were telling us how much weight these motors can hold, just these chain motors. And then I was like, wait a second, you can hang cars from there? He's like, yep, as long as your roof can support it. Those motors will hold up cars. I'm like, Blake, they'd even hold up you, man.
They might hold up a third, maybe 1 jelly roll, like the white cheddar jelly roll.
So maybe 3 motors would hold you up.
Yeah. I wouldn't underwrite that insurance policy.
So Blaine, with the size and the scope of the vision at Lakepointe, and you guys are doing just really cool things production-wise, how are you protecting yourself against burnout? Because often, big vision can come with then just hundreds of hours a week just trying to execute these vision on the production staff. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, that was something that was happening to me at my previous church where I had just signed up to do too much and put too much on my own plate. And so when I got here, I realized they already had an infrastructure where you have the campus level, but then we have our central production support where they're willing to step in even on a weekend when we're down a person, or if I need to take a weekend off, they'll step in and fill in. And we just have that resource that we can dive into. And these guys are really knowledgeable and can fill in pretty much any role. And they report directly to our church leadership, and we report directly to them, but they will come in the battlefield with us and help us. And that's one of the biggest things is having that support system so that if I need, and my brain has to be mature enough to recognize that if I need to take time or if I need help, I need to be wise enough to reach out and get that support. And so that's having that central support structure here, and even team structure with volunteers and all of that really helps us keep from being burnt out. And sometimes that burnout comes from oh, that church leader is asking too much of me, but I've never communicated that to that church leader, but I'm holding that grudge. And that's where that bitterness can start. And you have to be mature enough to know those things. And I just didn't have that for the first 17 years of my career. When I got here is when I really started to realize, oh, I was doing it wrong. And this place has been really eye-opening. And I've gotten involved in some groups to try to continue to teach that, like Thought Leader Connect and some of those groups that we can reach out into different production people and like help coach them away from those circumstances.
Yeah. So how do you advise, how have you had hard conversations where you're communicating, hey, I am overloaded, I'm burnt out, I'm getting bitter. And then how do you just recommend that other people learn to do it at their church?
Yeah, I think it's just the maturity to be able to, I have 5 projects due by this weekend, and we need to figure out which of these 2 or 3 that I can logistically accomplish without killing myself. Mm-hmm. And that's just knowing yourself and knowing what your limits are, and still putting the priority in your personal growth through, being mentored, discipled, all of those things, and making sure your first priority is your relationship with God. If that starts to go to the wayside, that should be your first trigger that something's off balance. If you don't have time to do your personal quiet time or pray and do those things, and not praying, God, I hope I get this done, but more leaning into what God has for you, I think that's one of your first alarms. And I would just encourage people, if that's a weak point in your life, everything else is going to trickle down and suffer from that. Your relationship with your wife or significant other, whatever, your kids, like all of that's going to suffer because your vertical relationship is failing.
Yeah. Blake, I feel like we have made this podcast our first priority, that we really need to put God ahead of this podcast.
I think maybe we should just listen to a full Tim Keller episode before every episode of this.
That's not a bad idea.
We'll be set.
Yeah. Today is he today's C.S. Lewis, or where does John Piper fit in there?
How dare you even question if it's our guy?
I know.
It's our guy.
Okay. All right. Tim Keller.
Yes.
Okay. So Blaine, how many campuses do you guys have, and how many production staff, both campus and central?
We have 8 campuses now. We're going to launch another campus here in a couple months in summer of 2025, and another campus in 2026, with plans for more. We've expanded as much as we can here at Rockwall, and so now we realize to reach the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're going to have to keep launching campuses. Yeah. So with that, we have probably 15 to 20 production staff covering all campuses. And some of our actual worship pastors are production staff members as well, because those campuses aren't large enough to support a full-time worship pastor and a full-time campus producer. So some of them are wearing 2 hats until they can hit that number mark, which is a support thing. So we are really lean for what we try to pull off, and as many campuses we have. But it's just fun to get to do all this stuff.
Blake, we visited churches where it feels like they have 74 campuses and 2 people on production staff.
I'm still waiting for somebody to explain that.
Yeah.
Truly.
So it's always great to see, a church having vision to grow, but also a vision to staff the church with great people to manage that growth, and to, especially in production, to handle the level of systems and events and all that. So I think it's really helpful to churches to understand, and for all of us. I mean, I'm a visionary and I want to grow ChurchGear. And then the team members are like, okay, that's great, Toby. Who's going to help me with this?
Well, if I was going to ever say one nice thing about Toby, so take your in-ears out.
Oh my gosh.
It is that he's always down to hire. I always tell people he's not scared to hire, which I would encourage some churches to think that way a little bit more in their production department. I mean, 2 stories come to mind. One, that guy that got the $10,000 bonus after Christmas, and he said, no, put that towards another position for me. That's crazy. Yeah. Secondly, I won't say their name, but we had a friend who was at one of those situations that you were talking about where there was a bunch of campuses and like 1 or 2 guys, and he left. Yeah. So don't burn your people out. Maybe clip this and send it to your pastor. Give him a little nudge.
Maybe. All right, Blaine. So again, we see you guys on Instagram. We see you guys in your live stream. You guys are doing amazing things. And
we see you guys through the window. Toby's stalking you, clearly.
Exactly. You guys are very influential in the church space. And so a lot of smaller churches are seeing what you're doing and then thinking like, well, how can we do some of that at our church? And this is kind of a bad habit that a lot of churches got into. What are they doing online? Now let's do it in our context. And we have 200 people and 3 volunteers. So how would you advise smaller churches? Hey, if you're watching us, that's awesome. We appreciate that. But how do you shrink those ideas to a context for any size church or resource level?
Mm-hmm. We actually, there's a tension we manage even here within our structures, where there are things we can do on a scale at Rockwall that we just can't pull off at some of our smaller campuses. So we actually have a tension that we manage even here at Lakepointe with those kind of things. But I think what I would encourage other churches is comparison is a killer. That when you try to squeeze your church into the mold of what a Lakepointe or an Elevation or some of those things can pull off, you have to look at the DNA of your church and realize what your leadership is expecting from you. If they're asking you to pull off some of the things that we're able to do or other churches are able to do, then you need to be able to say to them, okay, it's going to take this much to do that. Because until they understand the resources that it requires, both in financial and time and people, they don't know how big that check needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the first things you have to be able to do is communicate effectively to church leadership who don't speak tech often. You have to be able to communicate to them in ways that they'll understand and see the picture, but do it respectfully so that you don't burn that bridge as well. Because that's sometimes where you burn that relational equity is you can't explain well to your senior leadership why you need X or Y or Z to pull off their vision.
And just thinking about, the context of different things, like if you're scrolling Instagram Reels and you see your Pastor Josh and it's a clip from his sermon, that's not terribly hard to replicate. If you have a pastor that says, really compelling things and you want to share some of that stuff on social media, that doesn't take a ridiculous amount of production. Couple cameras, different angles, decent backdrop, some decent lighting behind him. And you can do that. If you see Lakepointe worship in a clip and you think maybe we can replicate this with our band, well, that's a whole different game. Like you're probably not going to replicate that, nor do you even want to try. So understanding the different contexts of what you can pull off and what is just out of reach. And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Yeah. Just be realistic with those expectations. And
it just comes down to the creativity of it all. You can do amazing things on a small stage with very little lighting. You can pull off big things. We hear stories all the time of the power went out and God moved with just an acoustic guitar and somebody singing real loud from the stage.
Yeah.
God can move miraculously through anything. And we just have the opportunity to do what we do. And we're trying to pour into others to help them achieve what they can do as well.
Yeah. I love that that's our official sound effect for Baffle Blake. At least I have made it so.
There's, a place in life where it's not so bad you're willing to die on that hill. There's one level before that. So it's continued, but not to my pleasure.
Yeah, this is our segment, Baffle Blake, where we baffle you with bits of information about blunders and buffoonery and boom mics and other B's that I can't remember anymore because there were so many B's and my brain can only hold so much stuff. But it's brought to us by our friends at HouseRight. All right, Blake, it is time to baffle you again.
Isn't that just the whole podcast, Toby?
That usually is, but specifically we're partnering with our friends at HouseRight to baffle you in this new segment we like to refer to as Baffling Blake. So HouseRight is an amazing integration team that works with almost exclusively churches all over the country to partner with their architects in pre-building phase or current room renovations, where they help make sure that your space looks aesthetically pleasing, but also acoustically correct for the style of worship that your church is trying to achieve.
You said the word architect, and I just haven't heard anything since. I'm like, that sounds way too technical. That's above my pay grade, but it's not above HouseRight's pay grade.
No, it should be above all our pay grades, but HouseRight does this all the time, and they're amazing at it. And if you are not specifically looking for an integration project, but you're like, hey, I am looking for my next career or opportunity, HouseRight is also hiring amazing people to join their team.
They're hiring.
They are hiring. So if you have been looking at the map and looking at Lexington, Kentucky, very lovingly because of horse racing and bourbon and HouseRight.
And high proof bourbon at that.
Yes. Go to HouseRight.com, check out their opportunities, and start a conversation today.
And our friends at HouseRight are currently hiring people. And they haven't hired me, but they still have the position up. So that means that they're still taking people. So they're really great to work with. They're really great to work for. So hit them up at HouseRight.com. And if you need your next integration project, go over to them as well.
Love it. All right. So in the keeping the theme of pastors that say crazy things, I got 5 crazy things out of a pastor's mouth, and you guys have to tell me, are they
Did you get
real
them out with
or
like dental
are they fake
equipment?
I used what are those big pliers? I forget the big plumbing ones. The pipe. See, I don't know.
The channel locks.
Channel locks. There you go.
I love getting Toby off course.
I know. My brain is broken. All right. First up, did a pastor say, hey, if you bring Starbucks into the sanctuary, I hope you're tithing on it? Blaine, did a pastor actually say that?
I can totally hear a pastor saying that, but I think that's fake.
Blake?
I think that's... This is really 50-50. I'm going to say it's fake.
That one's true. I mean, fair enough if you're, having Starbucks every day. I mean, that's like $400 or $500 a month.
I just wonder, how is AI even knowing this? Are they crawling every sermon that's ever been said?
It must be. AI has a mind of its own, apparently.
Toby, you're built on a house of lies.
I know. All right, next up. Did a pastor say the devil doesn't take vacations, so neither should the church staff? Blaine?
Oh no.
Unfortunately, I think this one's true.
Blake?
I have to say false out of just like hoping that's not real.
Unfortunately, that is true. Blaine, you get the point, and you get some vacation time. But yes, apparently, pastor actually said that, and shortly after, multiple people on that church staff left.
As they should.
Yeah, that's brutal. All right, next up. Did a pastor actually say the book of Revelation is just Christian Marvel with dragons and multi-eyed angels?
I'm saying that's true.
Blaine?
I'm going with true as well. Yeah.
That one's made up.
What?
Now, there were similar things said, but that quote is made up. All right. Next up, did pastor say the 10 commandments were God's original terms and conditions? Blaine, is that true?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Like,
I think that is true in the literal sense, but I'm going to say it's false that a pastor did not say it.
a pastor did say it.
It is 3-0 right
I
now.
know.
I've never pitched. No one's ever pitched a shutout against me.
Yep. Well, there's a shot here. All right. Finally, did a pastor say Jesus turned water into wine because Kentucky bourbon hadn't been invented yet?
A pastor 1,000% said that.
Blaine?
I know Blake has probably said it, and I'm almost positive a pastor has said it too.
That is false. I made that one up. Yes.
Toby, that's a good one. We should
know.
use that for something. Hold on to that.
Yep. You're welcome. All right. Well, thank you to our friends at HouseRight for baffling Blake this time. Blaine, you destroyed Blake in this episode. I love it. You get a prize pack from our friends at HouseRight. And again, if you're looking for your next career opportunity, HouseRight is an amazing place. And tell us about Lexington, Kentucky, Blake.
You got horse races, high proof bourbon, and HouseRight, the 3 H's that you need. And it's soon going to have a 4th H, which is Hodges, because I'm going to go work there and turn some water into high proof bourbon.
I love it. And if you're looking for your next integration partner, your next project, HouseRight does amazing work at the coolest churches all across America. So reach out to our friends at HouseRight.
I can't believe I lost 3-0.
Yeah.
That's painful.
Loser.
I didn't get into sport mode. Oh, I was sitting back. That's the
All
problem.
right. So speaking of a winner, Blaine, I'm guessing your wife is listening to this. You told me that oftentimes you force her to listen to the ChurchGear podcast. So, what do you want to reveal about, do you have any secret information you want to drop on the podcast so that she can hear it for the first time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would be about a death knell to me if I did that. No, she is really amazing. In fact, she was one of my staff members for a while, helping us input ProPresenter content and doing our pastor's notes before we transitioned here to Lakepointe. And she'll jump in anytime. She loves serving on the stage. So she is a truly amazing woman. And I married way out of my league.
So when she was one of your staff members, did you ever get called into HR for harassment violations?
Did she report to you?
She reported to someone else, but she took her job was to do the things that I asked her to do. So, and no, there were no HR incidents because I have a license. So we're good.
Yeah. Blake, can you imagine if either of our wives worked for us?
I think you would be divorced in 2 seconds, Toby.
No, she would just quit in 2 seconds. She's like, yeah, I can only handle being your wife.
I don't know. And everyone at ChurchGear behind your back asks us all the time how she does that. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's already
absolutely
impressive enough.
I know. Blaine, speaking of our wives, how would you just encourage our listeners to prioritize their spouse over the work? That so often we can get into these seasons, we get caught up in the vision, all the cool things, the weight of the job we're called to do. And how do you keep your spouse ahead of your ministry and your calling?
Yeah, I think the one of the things you have to keep in mind is you have to be able to know your spouse well enough to be able to read them and know when there's tension between her and the job. And every time you have to pick her or your spouse over the job. It's never just an easy choice of I'm going to take my job every time. And I think for years I was doing that. And I feel like I'm a few miles behind in where we could be after almost 30 years of marriage because I had made marriage sacrificial decisions because I was doing it for God. And I think when you have to start justifying 80 hours a week based on that quote right there, that I'm doing it for God or because the church is so important, I think you have to take a step back. And I keep saying the word maturity, but even at my advanced age, like there's a maturity that I'm still working on to know when enough is enough and when I need to be like tapping out and realizing I need to take some time off and take my wife out of town for the weekend or whatever that takes to keep your main relationship the main thing.
Toby, why does Blaine have a wife? You know, the devil doesn't have a spouse. Why do church members have one either? I mean, it's the same logic that other pastor used in your example.
It's very logical. But Blaine, I like that idea of kind of like reading your spouse and like learning the signs when it's too much, because I feel like for a lot of our spouses, they're not going to come out and say it until it's not that it's too late, but like it's definitely got out of hand if our spouse is to the point where they're going to tell us. That just learning to read those signs, what do you feel like are some of those signs with your wife where you can start to tell like, ooh, I need to reprioritize here? Yeah,
I think when it not the silent treatment, but when I'm telling her I'm going to be at work late and it's quiet on the other end of the line, I can tell there's something emotional going on. And even if she says she's fine, it may or may not be true. And so I have to have that conversation. And one of the things I've had to work on drastically is being an open communicator. Because as a tech person, I'm very isolated. I'm prone to doing things by myself and all of that. And so bringing her into the conversation of what's going on. And even sometimes it's fun just to bring her with me and have her help me do projects or have her sit there in the booth while I'm recabling something. And even if she's completely blanking out and what I'm telling her is the most exciting thing we're doing right now, it's still fun to involve her in that discussion so that when she does see it happen, she can celebrate with me.
Yeah.
Because it's not just that it's her against me and production versus what she wants in our marriage. She really wants to support what I'm doing. And so having the ability to communicate with her and have her be excited because it's helping our marriage and not hurting our marriage, that is huge.
See, Toby, Blaine brings his wife everywhere. You bring me everywhere. He tells her stuff and she blanks out on it. You tell me stuff and I blank out on it. I mean,
Stop perpetuating the rumor that we're married, Blake.
Mr. Gear, Mr. Church, Mrs. Gear.
Oh my
right
gosh.
here. Don't call it queer.
Oh, wow. You just cracked yourself up. Everybody's like, that guy is an idiot.
I did. Well, that's what they came for.
Yeah. So we're perfectly on the theme here, Blaine. We talked originally about, pastors saying just crazy, outlandish things. I know Pastor Josh, he can be a little bit of a wild card. Do you have any moments that you remember specifically in your 2.5 years there where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that?
Not really. No. He has the ability to say things and have the freedom to say those things because of the credibility he's gained. There have been times where social media can be very brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he walks that line very graciously. Even though he's saying some things that people would think are off-putting, but when you look at the entire package of his work and how he frames that, even in our church, where we're about one more. We're not about winning every person to Christ. We want people to all come to our church. It's not about that. It's about us having that one person in our life that we're asking to come to church or to impact them with the gospel. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that singular vision, Pastor Josh has a very good way of managing the things he wants to say versus the things he shouldn't say. Mm-hmm. And even though some of it comes across as potentially negative to some of the people in the world, it's still very truth-filled.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him say anything that wasn't true.
Yeah. I love every time I see a clip because I'm like, ooh, that was kind of brutal, but that was the truth. That was the gospel.
Yes,
and
yes.
Sometimes we just need to hear it brutally true.
And Jesus did the same thing. I mean, when he was with the woman at the well or the woman caught in adultery, Jesus was very clear with them, like, who's going to throw it? Let's do it. And it was that brutal honesty. And I think that's one of the things that, being in a position that Pastor Josh is in, he's able to do those things, and we'll fully support him.
Yeah. All right, Blake, I'm going to throw it over to you because you are such a disaster. Can you give us a good segue and do a disaster story?
I can't do a disaster story. That would be a disaster in and of itself. But our boy Blaine here probably can. So Blaine, tell us a moment when everything went wrong, how you fixed it, how you addressed it with leadership, or if you're just, too embarrassed to say, because we have some that their pride won't let them. You can tell us how it almost went wrong and you saved it last second.
Yeah, mine actually wasn't one I was actively involved in, but it involved my preview weekend here at Lakepointe. The very first service I was ever able to catch live, there's the soundboard during services here at our broadcast campus crashed. So we've since replaced that board, but during that time, I got a bird's eye view into how this team worked behind the scenes. And sometimes when those things happen in a church setting or in a production setting, fingers start to get pointed. And I saw a really healthy culture. Exactly. I saw a really healthy culture here at Lakepointe of, okay, this problem happened. How can we not let that happen again? But it wasn't, how could our audio director allow this board to get to this state where it would fail? It wasn't, how can we, there was no finger pointing. And I just thought that was very healthy. And as someone who wasn't on staff yet, that was just one of those markers that really made me want to join the staff. So seeing that failure happen and seeing the health of the culture through that, in spite of the disaster, because those services were being broadcast online. We were going to use that Saturday night service in some of our campuses for their early services. Like, we had to still pull off and execute, but seeing the health of the team was really helpful in spite of that disaster.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a really good way to build some good culture. Another good way to build culture is with a tech takeaway. So we'd love to get your unique piece of advice as we wrap this episode. What would you say to a room full of production people?
I think I would say it's ask a lot of questions. And at the core of this is I was mixing sound for one of our classic services at my last church, and I had a lady approach the booth who was complaining about the volume and how harsh it was sounding. And this was the first time I exercised this, and it was really eye-opening because instead of defending my mix, which would be very easy to do because I'm going to think it sounds great all the time, I asked her what about the mix was harsh or wrong to her. And I didn't know her from anyone, but that immediately disarmed her. She was not that was almost the perspective of I'm on your team then, instead of going toe to toe. And so she was able to very clearly communicate it was the cymbals from the live drum kit. And at that point, I didn't really have control of that in that particular room. And so I was like, I'll communicate to the worship pastor and see if we can ask the drummer to dial back a little bit or use hot rods, whatever we needed to do. But that was a really disarming moment. And I've been using that tool ever since. This is probably 12, 15 years ago. And just being able to, instead of immediately get defensive, just start asking questions. Because one, it will disarm them and also help them see it from your perspective. But you might also not know everything that's going on in your room or in your mix or in your visuals. Mm-hmm. They could be getting hit in the face with a light. Like sometimes we need those extra eyeballs and feedback to make sure we're doing it as well as we can for the congregation.
I like that a lot. I question Toby all the time.
Yeah, but I'm always right. So
that's why I give you a chance to tee you up, Well, Blaine, we appreciate you joining the episode, man. Is there anything you want to plug, anywhere you want to point people towards?
Yeah, I don't have anything personally. I just have my own socials. If people want to get a behind the curtain view of Lakepointe or some of our services stuff, they can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, either one. But I'm not doing anything on my own. I'm just here to serve the church.
Love it. Well, we appreciate you joining us today and giving us some wisdom. We always have to import the wisdom since me and Toby don't have any. Nope. So thanks for bringing it today.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the ChurchGear Studios.
All right, Blake, I have so many questions too. I mean, Blaine told me to ask questions. I have questions. I mean, let's start with the most obvious. What's wrong with you?
I think I've spent too much time with you. That's the problem. Ooh, you poisoned me.
Were you normal before me?
I was.
Wow.
You know what our wives say about when we get together? What we start getting each other going.
Oh my! This is getting out of hand quickly, Blake. I think you should just wrap it up.
All right, so if you need to get going with somebody, send them this episode and say we can laugh together about this episode.
Oh, I have so many more questions now.